Hi, everyone, and welcome to Signature West Podcast. I'm your host, Sam West from Palm Springs, California. If you love theater and stage plays, and if you're a man of a certain age, grew up or lived in the early 80s during an epidemic, yes, we had one back then, it's called HIV, you're gonna love this episode. My guest today is Terry Ray, and Terry is the man behind the play currently playing in Palm Springs downtown of Oscars called Electricity. Please help me welcome Terry.
Hey, Sam.
Hi, Terry. How are you?
I'm great. I'm happy to be with you.
Thank you. So let's start first. You are from Ohio.
I am. Yes. Okay. I was going to not do this with glasses, but you're so fuzzy. I got to confess. Okay. There we go. Hi.
There I am.
But we looked younger without the glasses. That was nice.
Know, right?
Yeah, I'm from Ohio. I'm from near Columbus in a suburb called Grove City.
And what was it like growing up there?
You know, it's a great place to grow up. I mean, it's, small town. Also, my family's half from Kentucky. So I grew up halfway in Eastern Kentucky. So a bit of a hillbilly there on that side. But it's a lovely place to grow up. I always knew, even as a little kid, that I wanted to go to Hollywood, but I'm glad I grew up in the Midwest. So I have those roots.
And you started acting at 15?
Yeah, that's when I did my first play with adults. Yeah, yes. If you asked me at 3, I would have said I was an actor. I don't remember not saying I was an actor. So, but I wasn't around opportunities. And then at 15, I realized, there's a community theater I can go to. And then, so I started that.
And then you went to University of Cincinnati.
Yeah, I went to 3 colleges in 4 years, and I graduated.
What is not enough?
Well, I had a lot of experiences to cram in, right? So yeah, I graduated from the University of Cincinnati. Mm-hmm.
And you studied?
Theater arts. That's a valuable diploma, let me tell you. No one has ever cared that I have a theater arts degree.
Well, you did.
Right? I have it.
That's all that matters.
Right.
So, and then Charles Nelson
Riley.
Right. What's your relationship with him?
Well, I grew up absolutely loving him. And then I heard that he taught acting in LA, and but he didn't advertise. And I didn't know how to be in his class. And I had just said out loud to everybody, like, I'm going to study with Charles Nelson Riley, but I don't know how to do it. And then the next day I met this guy and I was talking to him and I said, what do you do? And he says, I recruit people for Charles Nelson Riley's acting class.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? So I auditioned and I got in, and he was brilliant. And I learned so much from him. And he then played my uncle in my movie Gaydar, which was his last on-screen performance, and it was a gift. He was a gift.
How long did you learn? How long were you with him for? How long did he teach you for?
He taught me for a few years. Then he stopped teaching, but then we were still friends until he passed away. Yeah. And
then you also wrote 3 shows for the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion.
Yeah, that was my first job writing. I was an actor, and then but I always liked writing, and I had this you have to have temp jobs or whatever, and I had this part-time job at the Los Angeles Master Chorale, which performs at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, and they were going to do this show about Hollywood movie music, and I'm like, why don't we get movie stars to come in here and narrate and talk about the music? And they were like, can you make that happen? I'm like, I think so. So I just called up people: Mickey Rooney, Michael York, Dee Wallace, Brock Peters, Dean Jones. I mean, it was great. Rhonda Fleming, big old movie stars. And I wrote this show for them. And it was a surprise. The audience, that had already been advertised without any of these stars. So when like the audience was, the Dorothy Chandler was filled, and then Mickey Rooney walks on stage and everybody went crazy. And so then everybody was just like a huge shock. And the maestro, Paul Salmunovich, had a huge career. And he told me later that that was his favorite show that he ever did. And then
That's crazy.
Then they gave me the chance to actually write little plays for children for Christmas at the Dorothy Chandler for thousands of people. And so I was like, okay, I want to ask the kids who they like. So I asked a bunch of kids, and they said they liked Amanda Bynes from the Amanda Show, and I had been on the Amanda Show, so I knew her.
Right.
So I asked her, and she said yes. And she was only 13, and we rehearsed in her house, and we did that. And then the next year they asked me to do it again, and I asked the kids, and they said they liked Lizzie McGuire. So I didn't know her, and I got a hold of her, and her mother said, only if you give a bunch of tickets away to poor children. And I'm like, deal. So
Love
yeah,
it.
it was great.
So one day you woke up and you decided you want to write your own play.
Yes.
Why did you decide that day you want to write your own play?
It's a good story. So I had been writing a lot, actually. I wrote several short films. I wrote some TV series that I acted in as well. And I was in this rut of writing these ghost writing these TV movies, and it was kind of soul crushing as an actor, to be perfectly honest, because the notes were, I wasn't getting any credit for these things, and the notes were like, it's a comedy, but don't make it funny, or we don't like characters with flaws. Like, what do you write about? So it was just like, I can't. I wrote 11 of them. And
You're
I'm
being
like,
told what to do.
yeah, I gotta write something where I can do what I want to do and not be told a bad note and have to try to make it work.
Right.
And I'm like, the only thing I can think of right now is television is also like, a collaborative, and you have to take notes and you do all this stuff. It's like, I just needed to do something where I could tell a story without taking a note. And I'm like, I'm going to write a play. And I'm huge theater. I've been in over 100 plays. So I love theater, and I need to do theater every once in a while. So I'm like, I'm going to write a role that I would never get cast in, because everybody just sees me as this, broad comic. And I'm going to write an important story, and I'm going to write something that I don't have to take any note that I don't want to. And that's how I started the process of writing Electricity.
And the story's about?
The story is, I wanted to write, it's two stories to me, actually. I wanted to write about what I thought was a universal journey for gay men of a certain age, and really it's just condensed for younger people right now, but the journey of from the closet to equality. And that journey for me, and I think for many people, took decades. And I wanted a story that could span decades to get that story told properly. And at the same time, I wanted it to be a love story. And at the same time, I wanted it to be funny, and I wanted it to be touching. And so I just thought, I'm going to try to do all these things at the same time. And so it's about, Electricity is about two once closeted classmates from small town Ohio who meet up in 1983 for their 10th high school reunion. One is so closeted that he's invented a wife, and the other one is just now, at this point, has moved to New York and is just brazenly out and ready to shock everybody. And they wind up sharing a hotel room, and there's an electricity, a connection that brings them together, and they come back.
Sounds very complicated.
Right? And you see them at that hotel room every 10 years for the next 3 more decades. So you see them over a span of 4 reunions, and you see how the world changes and how they change.
Right.
And yeah, you saw it.
So you did that in 2015.
I wrote it in 2015, yes. And then we started performing it in 2016.
Then what happened? You went
it never stopped. It never stopped. And until COVID, but only for COVID this time. And we're back, even, COVID's not over. But yes, we were on our way to off Broadway. I mean, we had gone 9 times to New York for Broadway producers. And like the first time we did it, every producer in the room, I think there were 4, said yes. And so it was just this progress that we were on our way. And also doing it at different places. We did it in Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minneapolis. And we were given named one of the 5 best out of town productions of the year, alongside Hamilton and Cirque du Soleil. And I'm like, that's pretty weighty company, and that's a huge compliment. And then we did it in Columbus, and it was named one of the 10 best artistic events of the year, including music, dance, everything. So it's been very lucky.
So when did you shut down for COVID?
We were playing in 2 different venues at the same time in the same city. We were in Palm Springs doing it at Oscars, but we were also doing it immersively inside of a hotel room because the entire play takes place in one hotel room. And we had thought, wouldn't it be fun to try it just to see if we can do it literally in a real hotel room, sprinkle in as many people as we can and just act all around them. And we did it for 20 people at a time at Indulge. And it was so fun. It was like acting inside of a live movie because you could be so close to people. And so we were doing it in 2 venues. And then we were supposed to do a show, I think on March 17th, but March 15th, everything closed down. So the week before that was our last show. And then until September 7th when we came back. So it's so good to be back. It feels right to be back on stage. I love it.
So I saw the play last Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I had a friend of mine.
Yeah, you had a person. Mm-hmm.
I had a friend of mine, yeah. And somewhere in the beginning, the first half, I believe, of the play, he turned around in my ear and he said, I'm being triggered. My PTSI is being triggered. It's PTSI, by the way, nowadays. I injured, not sort of. Yeah. And I looked at him because he lived in the 80s during the pandemic, HIV. And I said, do you want to leave? He says, no. And he stayed till the end and he left it. Did you realize that it might have that impact on certain people?
I don't think I imagined the impact that it has on some people. No, I thought that people would relate to it, but some people are really. We've had people that couldn't leave their seats, that they were bawling after the play was over, and we've had other people that couldn't stop laughing. So it just touches people in different ways. It's been a real gift. I mean, but we've had people like seriously break down crying, and had to be helped out of the room. Can you tell
the audience that are listening why that is? I mean, I don't want to give too much of the story.
No, I don't want to give away the story either. So it's just that it's the journey. It's our collective journey and all the different things that we have had to deal with. And at this point we're all survivors. It's a survivor story because we're still here. But it's all things that have impacted us, that we're traumatic, but it's also, I try to look at it in a way where you have to throw in some humor because that's how you deal with stuff and survive it. Right. So yeah, so it's not all. I don't want to paint a picture of a morose experience that you're just gonna be. It's hopefully it's a cathartic experience.
I related to one of the characters. I'm not gonna say which one. I played in real life. One of them. It's a complicated relationship. It's funny. It's sad. It's empowering. It's a lot of it's all of that.
Yeah.
You play a role in the 2 characters in the one in Palm Springs. Did you always play in all the times you the play was featured?
I've the only person who's played Gary so far. Yeah. But we've had 3 people play Brad. But Mel has played him definitely the longest. Kevin Scott Allen, a fantastic actor, originated the role in Los Angeles. And then when we moved to Palm Springs, he wasn't able to do it. So Mel England took over, and he's been doing it the whole time, except when we went to Columbus. Columbus was done by Evolution Theater, a gay theater company there. And they did their own production. They had their own director, and they brought me as a guest artist. But Mel's done it almost everywhere since LA, except for the Columbus run. But I haven't let anybody else play Gary yet.
Do you want to?
Of course, later, yes. But as long
Later,
as I
later,
can,
like, oh
as
my
long as
God.
I can, put it all together to play Gary, I'm doing it, right?
So you enjoy playing it, being part of you wrote it, you enjoy all that.
I love it. It's the most challenging role I've ever gotten to play.
Why is
And
that?
I never would have gotten this chance if I hadn't written the role, because I never have gotten to play a role like this before. I'm always doing broad comedy, and I never get to do dramatic things. And so this was another big thing. It's like, I have this in me. I can play this role, and I love playing the role.
How did you
And
rehearse for it?
well, Steve Rosenbaum directed it, and he directed the original production in Los Angeles. And then when we moved to LA, moved to Palm Springs, we were doing it in a hotel room, and it was totally different because it's like, it was a lot of things to consider, and Steve wasn't available for very many times. He could only go to a few of the rehearsals. So we had Amy Rao, who was our stage manager, come into this gay men's resort. And we had to sneak her in, and she figured out how to stage it in the hotel room because it was so different. It's like, there's there's a bathroom and people can see in it. So if a character goes into the bathroom, which was an exit for us before, now it's like, oh, well, people can still see you. So if a character takes a shower, he's got to go take a shower. And if you're in the bathroom, you got to be doing something, brushing your teeth or whatever. And I never wrote myself to be nude in this play. I have the other handsome persons for that. But in the hotel room, I had to be, because there was no way I had to change clothes. I had to get out of the bed. I had to, there's no blackouts. So it's like, okay, suck it up, do it. So I did.
And whose idea was it, which I think is genius, to do the after show here in Palm Springs, the Q&A with different celebrities?
That was my idea, and we did it in LA first. We did it, and we had it was just a lot easier because I knew a lot more people in LA. So we had Lonnie Anderson do it. We had Dawn Wells, Frances Fisher, Tess Harper, Allison Arngrim, Susan Olsen. We had a lot of great people, and then I thought, well, I want to do it here, and so. Yes, I just need to find more people to do it because I love doing it this way. And I have to mention also,
what was the idea behind that? What was the intention behind having celebrities?
Well, because people want to talk about it.
Right.
It's a thing that brings up a lot of emotions and a lot of experiences, and I feel like people need a few minutes to talk about it. So that facilitates that. And it also gives us something fun with having a different guest star. But I also want to mention, because I haven't mentioned him yet, is our producer, Michael Darner, who's been with me since the beginning. And this play wouldn't have been made without Michael Darner, who is an architect, never produced a play before.
Wow.
We met on a cruise to Alaska. I was a guest star where they were showing a film of mine. And he said, what else have you done? And I'm like, I just wrote a play, but I don't know what I'm going to do with it. And then the film played in Palm Springs, and he came and he said, so what happened with that play that you wrote? And I'm like, oh, nothing, sitting on my desk. And he said, well, can I read it? And I'm like, sure. And Michael Darner read it, and he said, this is my life story. I'm going to make this play happen.
Wow.
So Michael Darner is the hero behind the scenes that has been with me from the very beginning.
So my other question about the Q&A after, you've had different guests, like you mentioned, from Lonnie Anderson, which not somebody that I would consider were affected by certain things that we all went through. For example, last week he had Alan, the author of my favorite book,
Alan Downs.
Rage. Yeah. Does it matter to you guys who does the Q&A? Do they need to be relatable to the story in order for it to be effective?
No, Alan Downs is particularly relatable, so maybe that's why you think that from that point of view.
Yeah.
But if you'd seen the other ones, like Ruta Lee did one earlier this month, and Ruta Lee was fantastic. She asked great questions, and she said, this is what Ruta Lee is like, I am basically a gay person. I've been in show business all my life. I have so many gay friends. And she said, I didn't know so much of this. So she said, you educated me. And so it's really great for straight people's point of view as well. I love it because they're relating to the characters in a way that's interesting for the audience to hear too. I don't have any hesitation with anybody just going, okay, if you know, like Lonnie Anderson was brilliant. She know, she relates to the a moving love story. She relates to you can see yourselves in these characters, whether you're straight or gay, with the same struggles. And then she also can, you know, she knows, you know, it's interesting to see everybody's point of view, because
I would have
everybody,
loved to have to experience the Q&A with somebody. That I never thought of it that way.
yeah.
I would have loved to. I was glad to see Alan and that night, but I would have loved. So I'll come back.
Come back.
What's next for you guys? Where are you going after Palm Springs, and what's the plan for the play and for you guys?
Well, right now we're just trying to get ourselves back on our feet and regroup, because until we are positive that there's no variance or nothing can shut us down, which we're not in that world yet, we
Right.
can't raise the money and go to New York and then have something shut us down.
Right.
We were lucky that that didn't happen to us, because that would ruin it.
Right.
So we wouldn't be able to recover from that if we, like, you know, got the money and then lost it all. So so we're building ourselves back up. We're going to go back to New York, but we're waiting for, you know, the assurance that we're going to be in a good space to be able to do that.
And you're gonna be at Oscars till then?
Hopefully, Oscars has been so kind to us, and Dan Gore, amazing.
Yes.
He's
Yes.
brilliant. He's getting all these celebrities to introduce things, and for us to give
I
us
don't know how he does it, to be honest with you. I don't know how the man does it.
he's great. And so we're there at least through the end of this year, and that is
Yeah.
such a gift. So hopefully, you know, things will go well, and we'll keep going as long as we can until we move on to a different city, or we you know, we're also open to going to different cities. We've done that all along. So if, you know, if we can get a month in San Francisco, I'm sure we would do it. So yeah.
So would you do? Can you do two productions at the same time? Can you be in Palm Springs and San Francisco at the same time?
Well, we would take a break from Palm Springs, like if we were there for, you know,
Right.
we're only on Tuesday nights, so if we're a different night, we could go back and forth. It just depends. So yeah, we
Good
have.
for you. It's a lot of work. Good for you.
It is a lot of work.
It's a lot of
And let
work.
me tell you, you don't want to drag the set around subways in New York, which we
It takes a
have done.
village. It takes a village. People that don't understand. I mean, even though it's a small production, small play, it takes a village. So hats off to you guys. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a great experience, and it's hopefully it's just starting. So
I hope so too. I mean, I love the play. As it could trigger some people that went through certain events in their lives, it's still very impactful and very insightful. I loved it. So thank you for doing it.
yeah, it's our history. It's our history, and
Yeah.
and that's something that that young people are seeing when they come see the play. And so I feel like the play has evolved into a history play, and but it's also, you know, it tells a good story, but it's also like it's going to preserve that timeline, and I'm happy about that.
So you've had audience. When I saw it, I have to say the audience were all of the same age. I feel like I'm around my same.
Well, that's who comes to theater. I mean, it's you know,
Right.
gay young people aren't coming to theater right now.
They're on their phone.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why. But we know we have women come. I love it when women come. They bring a unique perspective to it, because they really identify with the love story part of it. And
Right.
yeah.
Terry, thank you for this. Thank you for the play. Thanks for the work you guys do. Everybody that's out there that has not seen that, if you live in Palm Springs, please go check it out. It's at Oscars on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m.
7. You can eat dinner starting at 5:30. You can also find out more about the play at electricitytheplay.com.
Thank you for doing this. Everybody else, please go see it. I say this every week. If you enjoyed this episode and you enjoyed guests like Terry, please subscribe. Link is above. It's as easy as that. It helps me. It helps people like Terry come to the show and inform you all this good stuff that we're doing here in Palm Springs and other places. On that note, thank you, Terry. Thank you, everyone, and see you next week. Be well, be safe, and be kind. Take care, everyone.